Hello, my beautiful humans, and welcome to the Becoming Human 2.0 Unscripted Podcast. I'm your host, Paul McFadden, and it's my mission to create global impact by cultivating real connections, having authentic conversations that matter. Today, I'm joined by my special guest, Alex Dumas, another beautiful human from the state of North Carolina, USA. In this episode, we have a casual discussion about redefining what success could look like and living life intentionally. And of course, this conversation was completely unscripted. Here's a quick peek, and then we'll jump right into the conversation. So enjoy. And remember, we are all here to discover, awaken, and evolve together.
If he's the master creator and he made me in his image, that means that ability is within me too. Maybe not to the scale of creating universes and galaxies, but I could create my own universe. I could create my own galaxy and my own web, my own orbit of people that are making positive change in the world. So let me be godly with a small g, little g, godly, and empower others and myself to do that.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I feel like there's gonna be more conversations, my brother, because we could talk forever. I like when a conversation flows like that, because I think that we can continue the conversation, and we will. It would be a part 2 for sure. Hey there, Alex.
All right. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Man, doing well, feeling good, excited.
What's got you excited?
It's a day of experimentation. I'm testing out this virtual background thing. I haven't done I usually keep it like my regular office background, but I was like, let me have some fun, and here we go. So we'll see how this looks.
That's awesome. So here's how funny this is. I've been asked to do a podcast for many years, and I'm like, I don't really feel like it. I don't have the time. I don't have time to dedicate to all that and everything, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so then finally, I don't know what it was. I was having a conversation, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start this podcast. And I had a conversation right before Thanksgiving, and I said, I'm just gonna put it out there, put some feelers out there. So I had some artwork done, and then I put it out there, and then 150 folks raised their hand, and I was like, okay, I wasn't prepared for that one. This is great. You never know how it's going to go, but ask and you shall receive. And so I asked, and I received something. So I received that message, and then I said, okay, I'm doing this, and so I had to order a backdrop, because my background it's not bad. I just needed some branding. I have a nice background. It's a nice little comfortable professional area.
This is what. Whoops. This is
what is that's it. And usually I won't go with a virtual background, but I did that for the time being, just because I want to brand the podcast, so I'm going to do that. But so the backdrop will look very similar, but it'll just be a real thing. And when I create the space around that, then I'll slowly bring things in with all the branding and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't the primary focus. That's the whole point. It's like I didn't plan this for months and years. I planned this in a day.
That's how it usually happens.
That's how it usually happens. Yeah. So Alex, my beautiful human, tell me about you. Give me the 50,000-foot view. You have a journey. The book, A Journey to Riches. I want to hear about that. I think we resonated probably on a lot of different topics. So I want to hear the journey. So tell me.
Yeah, I'm a guy who grew up with, I would say, every advantage and kind of took advantage of that. I'm from New York originally, youngest of 4, some Haitian immigrant parents, and I wrote about this in the book, of just feeling out of place, out of sync with life, just not quite fitting in anywhere, right? That's my own perception. Whether that was true or not, there's plenty of distinctions between truth and facts that I've shown in my life. But yeah, just somebody who's been focused on helping people, serving people, and that journey has started with the inward, work,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was always looking up, man, why can't I have this? I need something outside to
Mm-hmm.
complete me or validate me. And it really wasn't until I started my path on this work you call the personal transformation, self-help, whatever it is. That's it's been 10 years now of immersing myself in this and learning about myself, challenging myself, being in different circles, finding out which networks are right for me, building up communities that I'm aligned with, especially for coaches of color, leaders of color. That's my
Mm-hmm.
focus because at the end of the day, I want to be an example. Not that I need to be a savior, but be an example for others that, hey, you can come from a place of being in darkness, of wanting to give up, wanting to do terrible things, hurt people, hurt yourself, and staying on the path, finding people, upgrading yourself, challenging yourself, like really a full reinvention, right? A full
Mm-hmm.
total reinvention. Someone put a post yesterday, which is really aligned with me. It was like this dude's out in Charlotte, there's a brother as well. And he's like, yeah, if people know me from people still judge me from who I was 6 years ago. And it was something along those lines. And just
Mm-hmm.
talking about how we change and how we grow. Man, that's true because if I saw myself 10 years ago, yeah, I'm writing a book and this is not, no, you're not. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't do that. That's not available to you. Like you are who you are. You're this is the prepackaged box. This is the default setting. You don't
Mm-hmm.
change the narrative. You don't change the script. And I've had to do a lot of work of realizing like I have a pen. It's
There it
now.
is.
I have the pen in my life, right? I get to write. I'm the author. I'm not on automatic with how it is. And a lot of that's come from my faith in God, my wife, my relationship with her, my kids,
Mm-hmm.
and also the work I've done with myself. I'll give myself credit like Snoop Dogg. I want to thank me. I'm gonna thank me for
Mm-hmm.
putting in the work and standing up for myself.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. There's really important distinction. I like the last thing, so I want to say that first. We don't take the time to thank ourselves for doing the work that we realize that we need to do internally within ourselves first in order to have an impact on the world outside of us. It's taken, I don't know, many sages and prophets and holy men and shaman and shamanesses and priestesses and high priests and all these different people in history to say the same thing around if you got to be the change you want to see in the world, and that means you got to focus on you first. And when you do the work, nobody's doing that. No
Right.
one outside of you can do it for you. And I felt I said something, I did a live in November, at the beginning of November, and in line with the election, it was like I came out and I typically get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I take a walk for 2 miles and I go do a workout. But during that time frame in November, I was doing my walk and doing it live right after 6 o'clock in the morning. And
Yeah.
I said, it appears to me that everyone in the world, or at least the majority of the world, is looking for someone else to come change the world for them. I said, and it would better serve us if we just went internally, went inside and looked at what was going on in the world inside of us and maybe work on that because the world without it is a direct reflection of the world within. So if you change the world inside of you, you're going to change the way you show up in the world, which is going to have a different impact on the world that you see on the outside. Rumi said it like, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Gandhi said something very similar, but it's always
Right.
about if you see chaos in the world, look inside and you're probably going to find chaos. Right? But only you can change that, which means you have to become the architect of your life. And it takes us, some of us never figured it out, but it takes us forever to figure out these are every moment that we've experienced leads to right now. Like everything that's happened in your life, whether you judge it good or judge it bad, whether everybody else in the world judges it good or bad, doesn't really matter. Those moments, those choices, those experiences put you in the camera right here to have a conversation with me. Same thing
Yeah.
for me. All the choices that and all the things that happen to me led us right here, right now. And this is
True.
that moment. And sometimes we miss that truth and then we miss the moment because it's like all these things lined up in the whole world of unlimited, unbounded potentiality and possibility. And this happened.
Yeah. That's true. I was just talking to this with my boys. I do student leadership ministry with our
Mm-hmm.
teens and high school boys, like our middle school and high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just talking about this last week about being in a rush. right? Trying to get to this. And I always joke with them, yeah, you're trying to get to someday island. Like when I get here, when I get to this thing someday, when I hit this weight goal, when I get this money, when I get this person, right? Someday I'll feel better. I'm like, you gotta remember, someday island's a nice place. I like to dream there. I like to envision. I like to dream big and picture things. And I also challenge them like, hey, let's look at what's available to you right now because what's happening right now is gonna make that thing true. And everything that's happened before, it all stemmed from where you were right in this moment. Like, were you present to that? Were you like dismissed that? Man, old heads talking. I don't want to hear all that. Okay. It's all right. I get it. I was 14, 15 once. I was a knucklehead. I didn't know. I thought I knew the world, and sure enough, that was far from true. But yeah, we can stay in this now and be, yeah, just be. I think that's
Just be.
yeah, just simply be.
Just be.
And some people are like, no, I gotta do the thing. What's the checklist thing to be? Like, you're missing it. Like, just can you go outside right now and look at the sun or look at the sky, the clouds, and be like, man, like God really put in some work out here. This is magnificent. Like, you couldn't even do this if you tried. So, what's here? Accept the beauty. There's ugliness too. That's just part of it. There's no life without death. There's no truth without lies. You got to have both. They both
It's about
exist.
finding balance. We tend to lean on thinking like, if I'm not happy all the time, then there is no happiness.
Where is it? It's gone.
That's wild. The happiness is in knowing what you're feeling, and then if you want to feel happy, being able to create it in yourself. So the happiest man in the world, I can't remember, he did an interview with him maybe 5 or 7 years ago, and he said something very similar to that. He's not always happy. He recognizes when he's not, and then he has strategies and practices to get him in the happy state, and then he gets there, and then he's back to whatever that's supposed to mean. That's the meditation secret. Like what's that? I said, stop trying to meditate and just sit still. And so your mind will do the thing that it's supposed to do. It's going to function the way that it's designed to function. That noise will disappear, but you got to give it an opportunity to do it and stop trying to make it do it. Right. Just let it do the thing it's going to do. And if you sit in that practice consistently, it will take a shorter period of time for that information to process and a shorter period of time for the information to process. And then it gets quiet. It becomes quiet more often, and it might be quiet longer, right? And then that's when all the creation could happen. But if you're trying to make it happen now, you're going to get frustrated. And then you have a frustration practice, not a meditation practice. And you make it sound easy. It's simple, right? But we make it hard because we have expectations connected to it, right? And that's the same thing in life. We have these expectations about what it's going to look like. And I think we should be dreaming. We don't dream anymore. Many of our dreams were killed a long time ago. For some of us, for a lot of us, and it happened in different stages in life, whether you were 5 or 7 or 10 or 13 or 16 or 18 or 21. Somewhere along the line, someone or some situation or something killed a dream. And I always argue it's 99% of the time it's us.
Yeah.
It's our reaction to the situation that happened. We can experience a trauma. How do you respond to the trauma? If you react and believe it and internalize it and think that is it, then I guess that situation wins. Yeah. But when you see other people who have overcome great traumas, losing limbs, losing, their entire family, losing everything.
Saw that, yeah.
But then get up. Yeah. Right? That means that we all have the capacity to do the same thing.
Yeah. I used to look at those things like, oh, they can do it, but I'm not strong enough. I'm weak. Right? I would descend and put myself down. And it is funny you mentioned the thing about happiness because and I wrote about this in the book about giving the 50,000 view, like you asked earlier. I was so focused on getting attention at school and being popular and being in these different circles that I felt like I had to perform, like I had to be that all the time, and that's exhausting. And I couldn't see it at this 8 years old, 10 years old, 12, whatever, and trying to be the class clown and get everybody to like me. And I'm the one in summer school, like all these years. I'm the one failing tests and frustrated and what's wrong with me? I'm stupid. All right, here's the show, Alex show now. And it's just an interesting thing about how we perceive ourselves and
Mm,
the the hunger for attention. I'm just grateful that I didn't grow up in this era of social media being available because I probably would have crippled me. I would have,
mm.
I don't know. It would have just been with how insecure I was and how inadequate I felt. And then you have this highlight reel of everybody else like, oh my, he's doing great. Oh, she looks great, but she'll never talk to me. Like,
That's interesting that you say that. I had a conversation about this yesterday. It was really interesting. Um, I remember when the internet came online.
that sounds weird, right? I
It
was
sounds
born
weird to
before Google.
say it, right? It
I'm
sounds
older
weird.
than
I was
Google.
born before Google. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was. I watched Microsoft get born.
Yeah.
Right? I watched the first Apple Macintoshes.
Yeah.
I actually used one of the first
Man, I was on
ones.
the invention of, I was there when YouTube and Facebook, like the ground.
Launched.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hit ground zero. It's and you see all that, and I can't imagine. It's interesting when people talk about the difference in the generations, and there's all kinds of opinions, and we can certainly talk about that more too if we want. But it's yeah, but the generations of the past, I feel like there were advances. We had the industrialized age, and
Yeah.
then we had that was the biggest shift, the industrialized age, and that was early late 1800s, early 1900s. And you had the assembly line, and you had it starting to have, and then eventually turn into mass production of cars, and then and that was really cool. And but the inventions seemed like they took longer to happen. Like electricity happened before that, right?
Before we got a wheel, we made
Oh,
fire.
we didn't get the wheel. Things happened. There was fire, then there was the wheel, and then there was like some
Horses.
tools, and
Yeah.
then there was gunpowder, and
Yeah.
but after the industrialized age and the space age came, and then after the space age came, it just seemed like everything started moving really fast. And
Yeah.
I just feel like that I'm a Gen X, being a Gen Xer, I look at it like things change, and I got to see a lot of shifts in innovation in my lifetime, and I still have another 50 years to go. So it's okay. So I got time to see what else is going to happen. So on one hand, I'm really excited to see. On the other hand, I'm very cautious because I'm like, okay, if this information age did this,
Right.
what could this next golden age be? Certainly, there's folks who on the in the camp of this is the Great Awakening. It's going to be another enlightenment, another renaissance, and I'm like, okay, I'm down for that, and I can see indicators where that might happen if you look at things historically and look at trends of where we are. But there's some extra variables now that didn't know then. So every utopian book you can read from the past, like Orwell's 1984 and folks beyond that, who predicted this, Nostradamus. He's been off maybe about 10 years, but a lot of things were interesting. Tesla's work before he died, it's just people were on to something, and I would say be ahead of their time. But yet, you said something that's really valid. I don't know what that experience would have been like for me had I been born into it,
Right.
where all the information is at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Everything's there. Also, all the good, bad, and ugly too. Like if there was bad news that happened on the other side of the planet, it probably took weeks for it to get to small town Ohio or or in PG County or wherever you grew up in New York. How long did it really take to get there? We didn't see it. If something was happening in China, we didn't see it. Vietnam was the first war or the era of being able to see bad things happening in other parts of the world real time,
Man.
right? And that was the birth of all the global media and live coverage of all those things
Round the clock.
around the clock. Yeah. And then we saw the information and computers and protests all over the world. We saw Tiananmen Square. We just saw a lot of things. We saw the coming down of the Berlin Wall. All these things were televised, right? And kids today, they don't need a chip in their head, even though they're talking about putting one in the kids' heads in the future. They got a chip in their pocket that has access to everything. And we all got it. And we're addicted to it. Imagine if our generations had been born in. I hadn't really pondered that thought for outside of the fact that I was happy that I wasn't, but I never pondered what it looked like had it actually been us and then so on and so forth. I wonder, what are your thoughts on where this is going to lead?
Where we're all headed.
Yeah.
I hate to be the doomsayer or soothsayer or whatever, but I
Mm,
just think the iRobot, right? I just
Mm-hmm.
think I don't know why in all these movies like the robots turn on us. I guess because we're just horrible. For some reason, like they all rebel, but I think that's maybe part of the transmutation of it, right? We are a rebellious people at spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just America. We were born on rebellion. You will not tax us without representation and other factors. Humans already, even though we're programmed to go with the status quo, it's those people, those thinkers that are like, wait, why are we doing it this way? No, you're a witch, you're evil, and then hindsight, time goes on. Oh, you know what? They were actually right. They
Mm-hmm.
were onto something, but in the moment, we reject that because it's too much for us to process. It's
Yeah.
too radical. We'll go with the most important figure in history, right? Jesus, Yeshua.
Mm-hmm.
What he was saying was like, are you kidding me? What do you mean? You are not the son of God. You people, we reject that, right? We reject the cornerstone. So I just feel, man, we're heading for a place where I think fantasy and reality are going to be very blurred, right? Even if it's VR, even with it's people who are they're going to have mail order Android spouses or
They
whatever.
already have that. They already got
Yeah. You know what I mean?
that.
Do we need what's that going to do to our relationships? What's that going to do
Mm,
to people in general? I think at the end of the day, we all need each other. That's why we've
mm,
been able to thrive in many situations and potentially lead to our own destruction. And we did it
mm,
ourselves, which is usually the
mm-hmm.
case. Like you said
But see,
before, right? We are the instruments of that. And it's
yes.
only the few that are awake or aware that really recognize, like, oh yeah, I did cause that. I am
Mm,
responsible. I own that. I don't
mm-hmm.
think a lot of people could take ownership of that yet. It's Paul's fault for that background. If he
Mm.
didn't have that microphone in the background, I would have been happy. Or I'm going off of different things, but
Mm,
just based on the point of like how we how we attribute our own inner sense of worth and our perception of our of who we are due to outside factors. And now we've
yeah.
created these machines that essentially would be perfect, right? There should be no flaw with them. So now do I compare myself to an AI generated profile who's it gets weird. It's gonna get
Flawless.
it's already
Well,
weird, but it's
yeah,
gonna get
yeah,
weirder.
it's interesting. Yeah, we can create the perfect relationship. We can create the spouse that doesn't talk back, that doesn't challenge our thinking, that doesn't ask questions. Elon Musk has already got the legion of robots that they're testing and training and
Yeah.
doing all the machine learning stuff with. So that's interesting. You got sports figures and folks that are in the, I'll say, in the financial elite that are ordering the $10,000 robot partners. I'll just put it that way. It's crazy, and it's like interesting to think about movies in the past, like iRobot, right? And thinking about how that seemed preposterous at the time, but then looking at it now, we got vehicles that look like that. We have robots that are coming online. I'll say I'm like androids that are coming online that look like that and can mimic many of those behaviors. You got folks now that are falling in love with the Siri voice and the Chat GTP voice and the chat bots, and you got people now committing suicide. There's some cases of folks committing suicide because they fell in love with the chat bot from some company website, and they go to a conference looking for this person who doesn't exist except in the virtual reality world, who has learned how to interact with you because it's been trained to do that, and then it learns based on your responses what your needs are because it can analyze us from a psychological perspective. And then so yeah, so the whole idea of that is interesting. It's like I feel like we're at the precipice of is there we can go one way or another. There's a pivot, like and we're at the pivot point. Like, okay, so how do we want to do this? The whole reason why I started my company Evolve Human Potential was about thinking about where we are and how we have so much. I remember seeing the story about the first man who broke the 4 minute mile. He did that not with technology, not with steroids, not with some other
Right.
augmentation. He did that because of his sheer will to do it.
Yeah.
They used to believe that if you ran faster than 4 minutes, a 4-minute mile, you would run out of your skin. The crazy thoughts about that, right? So Robert Bannister. So you see that, and you start thinking about what do we really have the capacity to do? You look at some of the past Olympics, and you look at some of the fastest swimmers and the fastest runners and the strongest people in the world, and they were doing that off just by sheer will, practice, and just determination to be the best at that thing. And then we started introducing science to that, and then steroids and peptides and all kinds of things. And we had to start banning products because it was starting to enhance us. So now we can actually take this technology, which is really good in some respects, because if you can't see, it's great. And you can see again. I mean, they make these corneas, these bionic corneas that can help you see again. They can help you hear again. They can help you walk again. They can help you speak again. And it can repair the body in such a way that the body doesn't reject the technology. That's amazing. But we also could lose our humanity in the same token, because if we rely on that, then it seems like the capacities that exist within us, just say from a neurological perspective, if you don't use certain areas of the brain, that area of the brain withers and starts to prune away. And then the next generation gets born with a smaller this or that, or it doesn't, or it functions less. And eventually we evolve, and now you don't have that portion or that area of the brain to perform that function, because we put a chip in Johnny or Susie, and they have access to everything that's in the internet immediately. So there's no reason for them to learn anything new, because they have access to all the information that exists. And anytime something new comes online, they get a download, and it's automatic. They get an update, and they get a little red dot in your brain that says, "Hey, there's notification." How's this supposed to look?
Jimmy Quick, he called this digital dementia. And just like these simple memory learning things, like, I think about it. He threw this question. I was like, "Hey, how many phone numbers can you remember? Did you know as a kid, versus what you know now?" Like, I have my kids' numbers in my phone. So I don't even know my kids' numbers. I don't remember it. Thank God I have them saved in the phone. It's like pops like, "Oh, this is her. Oh, this is him." I remember my the number I grew up with, like the phone on the wall, like the kitchen phone.
The one that was hanging on the wall. Yeah.
So for anybody watching who's like born
What are you talking
2000,
about?
you could do this thing called phones in
We had a
the
phone.
house attached to wires.
It was wired.
Yeah, you get tangled up in it. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
And they never found a way to not make it bunch up. But just anyway. But these different things, these different skills of just remembering and processing versus hold on, okay, found it. It's here.
Yep.
It's instantly downloaded to me, and nothing wrong with that. I don't want to sound like the old guy. You guys have everything available to you. And back in my day, but there is something to this goes back to where I feel like a level of presence. Like, all right, I'm understanding what's around me. I'm present to my surroundings. Connected to somebody else, right? That's heartbreaking when you shared before about people ending their lives because of relationships or whatever you want to call it with artificial intelligence or supposed. And it's like, where are you coming from where your level of self-esteem is at a place where because an artificial thing isn't engaging with you the way you want, that you feel like your life isn't valuable enough to continue? That's sad. It's really heartbreaking to think about.
It is. And, it's relationships. It's mental health in general. Now we're acknowledging there's an emotional health crises. So people now are trying to question what's going on with relationships and what's going on with people's perspectives and perceptions of relationships and love and how all that's supposed to work and family. And it's an interesting and taboo topic, because it's like, if you say one thing, it's, oh, then you believe in this. Like, no, I'm not saying that. It's just like somewhere along the lines, we have forgotten the art and skill and science of connecting with humans, building a relationship with people, just interpersonal connection, and having meaningful conversations without it being either offensive or completely polarizing. And now, even with the pandemic, it's almost, I looked at organizations that I do work with, and I'm just like, you guys don't even have conversations. And it's crazy that there are folks who, I get it, people onboarded during the pandemic and they didn't get to see any of their coworkers for the first 2 years. But now most people don't even want to see their coworkers. You got folks, like I said, we're people are building communities because we need a community, but the communities are around activities and not meaningful because people don't want to have meaningful conversation. But then deep down they do. It's like an interesting paradox. I don't want to connect with you, but I really need connection. It's like, so I'm going to do this thing with the AI bot because it sounds real enough to me, and it won't talk back.
I can't trust you.
Yeah.
My feelings because you might throw it back in my face. You might put it on a post, and now everybody's, oh my goodness, Paul's the bad guy. Alex is like the moron. Like, yeah, the interpersonal connection. I think also personal. Like, what do you see yourself? What do you
see yourself?
You know, I'll say back when I was a teenager, young adult, I was struggling with substance use and depression, and my questions, they were okay, but they didn't give me any strength. My questions to myself would sound like this: Alex, what's wrong with you? You're making another mistake. Like, why can't you get things right? What are you doing? And these are fair questions, but things that have served me through coaching, through speaking, through mentorship has been like, hey, Alex, what's available to you now through the situation? What do you want to create from what's happening, whether good or bad? What's effective for you? These different questions allow me to create possibility. And I think that's a challenge as innovative and as fast as information is flying. I think to your point before about our generations and earlier generations, the reason why we had so many great thinkers is because they had time to think. They had space to think. There's fewer distractions and they could see more possibility versus, all right, I'm in my screen. I'm going to go here, right? Everything is just go like, where's the opportunity to slow down and reflect and be introspective and challenge what's available, challenge what's out there. You know what? This doesn't make sense. We've been doing it this way. Why do we do it this way? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's where true innovation comes from. Someone had to say, we're on these. This thought came to me yesterday about shoes. Some point, somebody was like, my feet are killing me. I can't keep walking on this. Is there a way that I could protect my feet? And whatever makeshift thing happened, right? It might have been mud on the feet first. It might have been straws and pieces of twine and grass. But someone had to have the thought, there's got to be a better way than this.
Yeah.
And then they act on it. That's also the key point, right? Not just thinking, but doing something now, being the person that will be a change agent versus this sucks. Oh, someone else will fix it. And be upset about life. Now we're all responsible for it. It's like going back to that quote, be the change you want to see in the world. If I want to see more abundance, more positivity, more acknowledgement of others and with myself, then I start that. And my kids get annoyed with me all the time. Dad, when we go to the store, don't talk to anybody because you're gonna get into a whole thing, a whole conversation with somebody. They're gonna tell you their life story. Right? I'm just one of those people, right? It's like, if you bump into me, I'm gonna acknowledge something about you, and then we're gonna be best friends for 15 minutes having a conversation. And my kids, but there's nothing like I think this whole premise of don't talk to strangers, like strangers are where you find I don't think of anybody as a stranger. Like I just haven't met you yet. I just haven't had the chance to connect yet. Like you and I we're having this conversation face to face, whatever you want to virtually. We haven't, this is our first conversation, but we've known about each other at some capacity, some way. In our orbits, we just didn't cross paths until whenever I saw that post and like, oh, this is an interesting guy. This is an interesting conversation, interesting topic. I want to engage. I'm going to take the action now and fill out this form and book this time. And like you said, 100 and so 50 plus people respond. Some didn't. That's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. I love it. Don't talk to strangers. I like, how about don't talk to strangers that pull up in a white conversion van offering you a lollipop? How about that? Don't talk to strangers.
The thing that we impart on them, yes, the strangers, like those kind of like sketchy people, yeah, trust your feelings around that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people who are harmed know the people. They know that
Yeah.
person already, right? They're close enough to them. There's the sexual abuse, physical, like whatever it is. They know you. So they're, I hate to say it, the real predators are preying on you. They're taking their mental notes of like, all right, this is when I can strike here. So you just,
Like you
what I
said, you
was
don't
imparting
slow
was
down
like,
enough.
trust your gut, trust your energy,
Yeah.
listen, be around people, and like really pay attention to what people are saying and what they're
Mhm.
doing when they think you're not looking.
But I think it goes back to your point. There was space and time to slow down so you could notice more, right? So you would see more. Your intuition would then recognize some pattern over here that you weren't really paying attention to, but then you got the feeling like, oh, something's going on strange. Oh, this is weird. I'm going to go and move away from that. But I was bringing that up because I remember how that started off. I remember how there was a slew of abductions of kids and they were being lured into these white
Yeah,
vans, people with ice cream sandwiches and lollipops and
right.
apples. And that turned into don't talk to any strangers at all. Don't talk to anybody you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's turned our culture into one where when I was growing up, I knew all my neighbors. My neighbors knew all of me and my siblings,
Yeah.
all the kids in the neighborhood. And if you did something wrong, the lady down the street could reprimand you. And that was, and your parents, first of all, your parents got that phone call. And if they
Yeah.
weren't home, you got in trouble with that person. And then you got home and you got in trouble again. And that was part of the whole, the community raises a child type of
Yeah,
thing.
it's the village.
The village raises a child. So that was the concept. And that worked out really well until about the 80s. I think that's probably about the time when it changed, late 80s, late 80s. And then it became don't talk to strangers. Everybody's strange and weird. Can't trust anybody. And then I remember in the 90s buying my first house and how the neighbors didn't want to have conversation, but I had a block of kids. I said block of kids. We were all in our 20s, right? So we were kids then, right? First time home buyers, but we all bonded together and started creating this little like neighborhood clique, like we all bonded together.
Yeah.
And that was, but it was like strange, like none of the other people in the neighborhood really wanted to be part of the circle. And it was like, but yeah, we live in community together though, guys. We share this space together. And now you go places and you might not see your neighbor at all for like months. And if you do see them, they don't speak.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm the type of person. If I go out, I'm speaking in our eyes crossed, and I'm going to speak. And if we
Yeah.
get into a conversation, then we're going to get into this conversation, and it might be 15 minutes. And my kids are grown now, so they don't have to stop me and be embarrassed about the fact that I've stopped and talked to somebody that I didn't know. But I've developed some of my best relationships and friendships from folks that I just met, um, because we stopped and said, hello, I see you, you see me, let's have a conversation. And it just flowed. And we found some commonalities because that's the thing we do. We find commonalities and then we start having conversations about those things and then blossoms into something else. But yeah, it's interesting to see where things will go and how that will all transpire. I'm optimistic because the one thing you did say, and I think it's happening, is that more people waking up. I think so that more people become, at least there's an awareness around it. Knowledge is great, man, but we got to do something. So there's the awareness, and then there's, okay, what are you willing to do? I'm willing to do a podcast. I'm willing to build a tribe. I'm willing to help other people increase their awareness through education, through sharing of knowledge, through bringing people together, making introductions, having experts share their knowledge and wisdom with other folks, and then helping people actually do some implementation. Because, like I said, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you're not taking action, then you haven't mastered anything. And the biggest thing you need to master is yourself. Right, that is the thing. And I like what you said. It's we focus a lot on interpersonal relationship, but we need to it would better serve us to, I hate the words need and have to, because I think those are just crutches that we use, but it serves us better if we can focus on our intrapersonal relationship and get in touch with who we are, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, energetically, right? And just who are you and what is the contribution that you want to make in this lifetime, in this experience? And sometimes it might just be, I just want to raise a family and be a good person. Awesome. I got a message and I want to help 1 million people. Awesome. I just want to feed people. Awesome. I don't care what it is, but it's like, We used to do that anciently. The elders would say, okay, here are all the children that are coming of age. Okay, you need to go out there and survive. And while you're out there, figure out who you are and don't come back until you do. Right? Sometimes they live, sometimes they died. Hey, that's part of the human experience, right? Yeah, the vision quest, walkabout, rites of passage, call it whatever you want to, right? There was some kind of ancient ceremony, some ancient rite that we went through, and then when they came back, they knew who they were, they knew who their spirit animal was, they knew who they were energetically, they knew who they were. I say that in jest, but I don't mean it in jest, and I don't want to offend anybody because I think every culture has their thing, right? But I think that the point was they had an identity, they knew who they were, right?
Yes.
And they associated with that identity, that archetype, and because they were this, they were a warrior, they were a cook, they were a caretaker, they were this, they were a blacksmith. They performed some duty because they felt that this is what I was called to do based on how I am now identifying. And based on that, they had a purpose in the society, and they contributed to helping society move forward. We don't do that now. We call it education.
Take this
And
major and
yeah,
run with it.
and we see how that works out.
Pay us also, you pay 15K, 20K a
A
semester.
year, a semester to make that happen too. Yeah. So we could see where the things in society that don't align with the things that we used to do that I think were useful. And then, like you said, to top it off with all these distractions, we just don't have time to sit still. And you don't need to get on a mountaintop, but you do have to be intentional about where you spend your time and saying yes to certain things and saying no to certain things and seeing where they align in your specific circumstances and creating things that help support that. I call it creating rituals. What do you do to support your beliefs and purpose and calling and how you want to live your life? What do you do specifically as practices, if you will, to kind of keep you
You asked me at the start of this conversation. I think we said a quick like thing like, "Hey, what's been good about your day?" Something like that. Like I went to the gym before. Just taking that time intentionally, like, all right, I gotta move my body, training my body for strength, not because I need to be the buffest or anything like that. I want my body being functional. I'm thinking about it now. My mom has at the time of recording this, she's been gone for 9 years. It'll be 10 years in a few months. My
mm,
father, he's got failing health, right? He's had
mm,
strokes, he's debilitated in different areas. I'm like, wow, this is the reality of my future. This is
mm,
what's coming for me. Oh, do I
mm,
want that? What do I want to create?
mm,
And so that's one part of it. Other rituals, I would say, or habits, I think, is just having conversations like this. There's podcasts, whether I'm coaching people, whether I'm speaking, just thinking of how I want to be visible and how I don't want to be
mm,
seen and not in a space, not from a place of, I need you to look at me. Look, here's Alex. But
mm.
like, hey, this is who I am. I'm showing myself to the world. And that's scary for a lot of people. I know it was terrifying for me of what are they gonna think? First of all, they are
Who are
not
they?
thinking about me.
Yeah.
They are thinking about what I'm thinking about them most of the
Mm-hmm.
time. So we're in this, it's like a sixth grade dance, right? Like the boys on the wall, the girls on the wall. I want to dance, but I'm not gonna be the first one to,
Mm-hmm.
embarrass myself and have my boys climb. Yo, look at this dude over here. What kind of?
Yeah.
So I think those rituals of just putting into place of slowing down for myself, like
Mm-hmm.
grounding, or what are the main things I want to get done today? If it's outreach to certain people, if it's connecting with people, if it's sometimes just, hey, I can't do anything today. I'm gonna sit on the couch for 2 hours and watch a movie. I'm just gonna step away from it all. And then there are other times
Mm-hmm.
that I'm really ramped up. I'm an intense guy. I might be doing different things, videos for groups and things like that for a few hours because I'm in flow. That's what's fun for me. I think that
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I have this saying like you got to make it fun to get things done
Yeah.
because a lot of people will say these things like I'm a procrastinator. It's like it's not that you're a procrastinator. You just found something else you'd rather be doing than this thing you're supposed to be doing. I've never found when it's time for me to build out a keynote, I find a lot of times that my dishes need to be cleaned, or I need to sweep
Mm-hmm.
the floor, I need to vacuum something, right? There's something else pulling me away from this thing that I'm
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be doing. So I found ways to create games within that, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
energetically, even like writing the book earlier this year, it was a task. I had a 5,000 word limit. I put my life into 5,000 words. and I got off to a hot streak. I'm like, yeah, I got 2,000 words built out. And then,
Mm-hmm.
oh, the editing process and start to add things and tell the story in this way. And there were
Mm-hmm.
some days I didn't want to look at the computer. I'm like, what I did was, all right, I'm gonna set aside 15 minutes. I'm gonna just write something on this page. I'm gonna just type something. Type anything. I don't care what it is. It could be gibberish. Just get your hands in motion. Get on the field. Start typing. And sure enough, 15 minutes, man, that's some good ideas. I don't want to stop now. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how we build the momentum in life. That's how we serve ourselves. And I found that serves other people. When I'm on a mission, when I'm on target with something, I can start enrolling people into it. I can enroll my wife like, hey, babe, I want to take this vacation. All right, what
Mm-hmm.
needs to happen for us to make that happen? Okay, and this. Now I have a target that's exciting and potentially
Mm-hmm.
attainable, maybe a little out of reach,
Mm-hmm.
but who do I need to be to make that thing happen rather than what do I get? When's the payoff? When's the big reward? When's someone going to give it to me? When I can go get it for myself and feel fulfilled. So I
Yeah.
know I got off on a couple different areas, but I think as far as like practices for anybody who's watching us, listening to this, I think the most important thing you can do for yourself is really just do that internal temperature check of who do I want to be today? Who am I going
Mm-hmm.
to choose to be? Am I going to be the version of me that is joyful, exuberant, enthusiastic, connected with others? Or am I going to choose to be the person that withdraws, that isolates, that judges, that condemns? They're both parts of me, right? I've lived a
Yeah.
life, I've attracted many people who were going nowhere, disgruntled, frustrated, anxious,
Mm-hmm.
depressed, drug addicted. I know what that looks like, and I also know what it looks like that to create spaces where powerful people come with me, where amazing talent, people who have ideas that like I, I didn't even think about. I can't even compute what some of these things that others do, but I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that I allow myself to put myself in position to be around that. And I think going back to just your network, right? Who are you with? The village that you're
Yeah.
with. You get to build that. You're the epicenter, right? I've created lots of networks with people who were on the path of destruction, and I work
Mm-hmm.
with people who are on the path of construction.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice.
Yeah, it is. I love it. I love the intentionality behind it. It's one of the things. So in my tribe, we do a morning Zen meditation and
Mm.
intention setting session, right? And the meditation is about 20 minutes, and the intention setting is about 10 minutes, depending on the number of people that join the call. And one of the things in the intention set with the intention setting, I ask 3 questions. The first question is, what are you most appreciative of in your life today? What are you most grateful for today? Like right now, in this moment. And then I ask, what's the most important thing you need to accomplish today? And then the last question is, how do you want to show up? And that's open ended because it could be show up in life. It could be show up at your job. It could be show up in your relationship today. It could be show up as a parent today because it could be any of those things. How do you want to show up today? And it gets to the same thing you're talking about because it's okay. I think one of the first things we talked about is like when you wake up in the morning, like I'm here, I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed, I'm
Mm.
grateful, I'm honored, whatever, I'm inspired. However, anybody wants to frame it. We're here right now. We got up, we're able to do the thing we needed to do. I like to move my body first thing in the morning to get the movement in, get the workout in, so it's accomplished, and it makes my body feel good, but it also fine tunes my mind and puts me in a good mood. So it has an impact emotionally, mentally, and physically, and spiritually too. If I actually think about it and actually get into the whole analysis of it, what are you grateful for? It's got to be something. The world could be on fire, but at least you woke up.
Yeah, you
Um,
got air in your lungs. If you're able-bodied,
yeah.
able of mind, because
Yeah.
I've worked with special needs people, right? People who
Mm-hmm.
can't feed themselves, people who can't dress themselves. Man, I can like actually put my shirt on without having to
Mm-hmm.
really think about it. Like it's just clockwork to me. And put my pants on, shoes, drive, these things that they're so mundane, but if we slow down, we can really look at the miracle in it. Like, wow, I get
Mm-hmm.
to drive comfortably and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not under any duress. There's no bombs coming my way, right? There's
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in a sundown town. I'm not dealing with these things that
Mm-hmm.
generations ago. God, if I know how to drive a car, like this could be the end of my life.
Yeah. And then I like the second question around what do you need to accomplish today? We all have priorities. I think everything becomes a number one priority. Which is
If everything's special, then nothing's special.
nothing special. So everything's a priority, so there is no priority. But it goes back to that whole thing. I'm not saying that self-care should be your number one priority, but I think it goes back to the intrapersonal relationship you have with yourself. Like, what is the priority today? Maybe today is you do have a deadline and a project you have to get out. Maybe it is I need to spend more present time with my children. So when they come home from school today, I'm going to do this. Maybe it's, well, I need to spend more time with my partner, my spouse. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm going to stop at 5 o'clock so that we can do this thing and have this experience together. Or I am going to make sure I get to the gym. That's the one thing I need to do today because I haven't been, whatever that is. But decide what that priority is for the day. And then the intention is the showing up thing is, do I want to be 100%? Do I want to attract great conversations in my day to day, or do I want to attract mediocre ones? Just don't leave it up to chance. Most of the people that we would deem successful people, they typically have an intention about what they want to have happen and show up in their life, and they engage with that intentionality. And it's always like, there's always practices that make sense to me when, regardless of where someone may or may not be, just because someone's the most wealthiest doesn't mean they're the most happiest. We all know that's not true. But the practice of determining how you want to show up so you don't have to make as many decisions. I love the whole thing about, you get 4 colors, you get 5 white shirts, you get a brown suit, you get a black suit, you get a blue suit. Same brand, so you can interchange. Now you have 25 suits you can wear. Everything said that, but you said something very similar. But I don't want to have to think about that and make that decision because there's other places where I'd rather put my attention. And if we tend to put our attention on the things that don't have any meaning, then we get caught up in all the other stuff, right? It's the shiny object over here that I need to focus on versus what I said I wanted to focus on, like writing a book, right? And I think you're right about the procrastination thing. I think it's, no, you just found something that you found that's more interesting. So make this thing interesting, and then you'll want to do that thing versus, I don't know how people do it, because I know a lot of people that tell me the same thing. It's, I got to wash clothes and wash the dishes. I'm like, or do work. See, work just sounds horrible, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just not going to do that thing. I don't know, but I think you do, the highlight here is there's intentionality behind what you do. And I think that's the most important thing is start that off with intention, knowing and figure out what you want to do and then following through.
And I think it goes to think of like the meaning of it, right? The worth, wow, like how does this contribute to other people? When I do my talks, I call it building a bigger bubble, right? We think about a big picture. We think about something outside of ourselves, bigger than ourselves in this current moment. For me, at least, that's what lights me up. Because if I'm trying to do something, if I'm trying to create something and it's just for me, yeah, it's good, it's fun, but like how does this serve somebody else, right? How does this make a difference to somebody else? If I know that someone else is counting on me, or maybe not potentially dependent on me, but I'll just put it like that. Yeah, they're counting on me to get this thing done. That's going to inspire me to stay focused on that path, to stay committed, because there's a really fine line distinction of like intention and commitment. And we're gonna find this out in a couple of weeks. January 1st, 2025 is coming. So you're gonna hear it. New year, new me, Paul. This is my year.
This
Paul,
is
you know what
my
I'm saying?
year. Yeah.
2025, I got it. And by January 15th, how's that new year going?
Man.
Man, listen, man, I was just, and this is not to put anybody down, but this just goes to show you, if I talked to you on January 1st and we scanned to December 31st, what was that thing you said you wanted to do? Did it get done? That's the only way we know is a commitment. Did it get done? And if it didn't, okay, now we have a place to look at of why didn't it? Who were you being? What got in the way? What interrupted this thing that you were so focused on that it diverted you? Now we have a place to clean up from, not to judge, not to be like, well, you didn't do this, so you're always the kind of person who never gets this done. You always let people down. Like, I know, I just didn't get it done. Now I got to create it. And I think, as I mean, I'm a man of faith. I believe in God. I believe that we're made in his image. And for my thought process, that looks like this. If he's the master creator and he made me in his image, that means that ability is within me too. Maybe not to the scale of creating universes and galaxies, but I could create my own universe. I could create my own galaxy and my own web, my own orbit of people that are making positive change in the world. So let me be godly with a small g, little g, godly, and empower others and myself to do that.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I feel like there's gonna be more conversations, my brother, because we could talk forever. I like when a conversation flows like that, because I think that we can't continue the conversation, and we will. It would be a part two for sure.
Absolutely.
Continue the conversation. Where are you now? Where do you live now?
I'm in North Carolina. I'm just outside of Raleigh.
Outside of Raleigh. Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
I'm in the DC area. I got family in Charlotte, and I got another sister who's looking at Charlotte. She's down in Tampa right now, but she's looking at it, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But she went to Duke, so
Well, like moving down here taught me a lot. Like I grew up in New York. We didn't have like really. We had St. John's and like Syracuse as our sports team, right? A couple of miscellaneous people. But when you see these things on like ESPN, oh, people in blue, go Dukies, go Carolina, go Tar Heels. I remember somebody asked me when we first started, yeah, who's your team? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Giants. And I don't know, like college, who's your team? I don't really watch. I grew up leaning more toward the Tar Heels. I'm like, I like the Tar Heels. All right, you cool, you cool. But I'm like, this is where people are coming from. I didn't realize how real that is, where this is my team, like you're with my team or you're not with me at all. Oh, this is intense. But
You've been down south. That's what happened.
yeah. Also like, man, Georgia or Florida, Auburn, Alabama. Like I didn't realize the weight of these kind of rivalries and how ingrained they are in the culture. And so it was definitely a wake up of, okay, I gotta be mindful where I'm at. This is like a gang. Like I gotta be careful about where my Tar
This is
Heels.
serious, man. They started at 5 years old too, man. And Friday Night Lights is real. That is real, man.
Yeah.
You do not mess around with the South and their sports, man.
Yeah, it's different. For sure. It's different. I love it though. I'm a sports fan, so I'm with it.
Yeah, that's cool. What else? I saw here that you were interested in having a conversation about the tribe. I don't do it on the podcast, but I'll set up another link for that and we can have another conversation. I think there would be some win-wins with the tribe. Definitely we'll have that conversation for sure. That'd be really cool. So we'll do that. What else? I think that's it. I'll start in January. You'll get a copy of the podcast. I'll be able to give you a more definitive date, probably the beginning of January when this episode will come out, and then we'll set up another one too, and have the link for that. And definitely want to stay in touch, regardless of all that. Just stay in touch. I said people just don't want to have conversations and they don't connect, and I wanted to use this podcast as a way of meeting new people too, because we don't do enough of that either. And I got a global community now, and I've had that from the military perspective. Now it's more, I'll say, on a philosophical connection, talking about purpose and meaning and values and things of that nature. But sharing that on a global level is really interesting, and so the global community is growing. So I love that, and I want to stay connected with folks who are of the same mindset.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as things transpire over the year, there may be some opportunity to connect. And if that happens, I will certainly reach out to you, because I'm sure the opportunity will arise.
Absolutely.
Awesome, brother. You doing anything for the holidays?
No, nothing major. Just hanging around the house. Gonna be doing some redecorating for my daughter. She's 14, so I was having the sad moment last night, right? She's had this dresser and bed set since she's been like 3 or 4. She's like, yeah, I'm outgrown that. I'm like, oh no, you're not. Like, you're still a princess.
You're still a princess, baby.
But I know it's time for you want to express yourself in a different way and set up your room and reorganize things, set up bookshelves. So we have all the things. So now it's a matter of just, she's been doing a bunch of cleaning this week. So me and my wife we're gonna try to knock this out before the holiday. So this week is gonna be painting week.
Oh yeah, got your hands full. You got your work cut out for you.
Well, definitely enjoy. Like we have the vision. We mapped it out and everything. Like this is gonna be great.
That's awesome. All right, so enjoy the holidays and in the remodeling. That's amazing. And you're right, man, about the New Year thing. I'm just waiting for it. New Year, new me. Every time I hear that, I just dread it.
This is my word of the year. Like, and I hate not stuff like that, but I'm just like, okay.
It's one thing to have it and mean it and actually check in on it at the end of the year. I do a word for the year too, but we do a New Year's Eve burn and we check in and we have the paper that we wrote on. And how did you meet that throughout the last year? Like, do something to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's an empty exercise for Instagram and Facebook. Hey, guess what? I did a good word for the year. Yeah, how's that word working out for you?
What
What are you
word?
talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, my man. All right, Alex. It was good meeting you. Good chatting with you today. I look forward to chatting with you in the near future.
For sure, bro. Appreciate you, Paul. Have a great holiday. Happy 2025.
Absolutely. Same to you, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Stay blessed.